Imagine when you wake up in the morning and you find that your phone is not functioning. In that moment, you realize that we take our electronic luxuries as granted, as personal assistant for entertainment, maps when we are lost, as a communication device, or even to look time, right? Today, we are going to see an old communication technology that will enable you to even talk or communicate even you don't have a mobile phone. Sounds interesting, right? Amateur radio is a popular hobby as well as it's a service. It brings people, electronics and communication all together. We can use this to talk across cities, countries and even space. While learning amateur radio, it's fun, it's social, it's educational and it's a lifeline when you are in emergency situations. Amateur radio or ham radio devices uses a radio frequency spectrum or radio frequency bands to communicate between each other. The commonly used radio frequency band are high frequency, very high frequency and ultra high frequency. In short, we call them HF, VHF and UHF. Amateur radio are commonly used for transmitting or exchanging information which are non-commercial, can be used for wireless experimentation, personal recreation, radio sport, contesting and importantly for emergency communication. Like IEEE, International Telecommunication Union or ITU have classified the whole world into 3 regions. Region 1, Region 2 and Region 3. Here in this picture, you can clearly say that India is in Region 3. With this picture as reference, wherever you are in the world, you can find out which region you belong to and which are the frequency bands allotted for different wireless services. This table shows frequency bands allocated for Region 3 by ITU. I have selected only few ITU bands for you to learn on how to interpret this data. ITU provides information on ITU band, band name and frequency range of operation, that is upper frequency and lower frequency. I have added an application tab so that you can relate to its use. Here I have shown only 5 ITU bands: low frequency, medium frequency, high frequency, very high frequency and ultra high frequency. Low frequency or LF is mainly used in submarine navigational aid, and for medium frequency it is used for AM or marine radio, whereas HF, VHF and UHF are mainly used for amateur or ham radio communication. For HF, we use it for either shortwave radio or radio telephony. For VHF, we use it for VHF television, FM radio and navigational aids. These navigational aids are mainly used by fishermen at sea, the VHF frequency band. And for finally, UHF frequency band is used in earlier days of cellular phones and even in GPS communication. To understand amateur or ham communication, let us see this diagram. Here you can see there are 2 transceiver base units, and since these 2 base units are being separated geographically by this mountain here, we can generally communicate directly, as the line of sight is being obstructed by this peak. Hence, to have a proper communication, we will place a repeater over here so that it acts as a third antenna, but the purpose of this repeater is to have a connection between these 2 base transceiver mobile units. So, the repeater acts both as a transmitter as well as a receiver. Hence, while transmitting, we need to do it in a particular frequency, and while receiving it, it should be done in different frequency. So let us see how it works.
Since both transceiver based units are capable of transmitting and receiving, the transmission is color coded as blue and the reception is color coded as red. You can see that the first base station or the base station A transmit at a frequency of 146.07 megahertz, whereas it receives with a frequency of 146.67 megahertz. Now you have observed that there is a difference of 600 kilohertz between the transmitter frequency range and the frequency of reception. So this is called as a standard negative shift. So in generally the repeaters use a standard shift or a negative 600 kilohertz shift. We use this shift to identify the transmitted and the received signal separately. So this is a basic principle involved in amateur or ham radio communication. How to be a ham operator? Any individual above the age of 12 can become a ham in India after qualifying in amateur station operators certificate examination, or in short ASOC exam. In early days, we need to apply offline while submitting the application to officer in charge wireless monitoring station, Department of Telecommunication under Ministry of Communication, Government of India. But now recently, in the month of May 2020, the Wireless Planning Coordinating Wing of Department of Telecommunication, Ministry of Communication, Government of India has launched a ham module. The website link is provided below. You can go through that. You can also refer the links provided for referring ham manual, ham instructions and checklists which has to be done before attending the exam. There are two grades of license, general grade as well as restricted grade. For general grade, we can use high power, whereas the restricted grade, we can use only medium power. High power can be 25 watts and medium power is 10 watts. For general grade, the exams will be 2 hours and the restricted grade, the exam will be 1 hour. For general grade, we need to learn Morse key for sending as well as receiving the Morse codes. So you should be able to transmit or receive at least 8 words per minute. The exam fee for each grade is 100. So it's always better for you to apply for both grades, general grade and restricted grade. The license fee for 20 years is 1000 and for a lifetime it's 2000. So for more information, please visit this website or you can click the following links provided to read ham manual, ham instructions and checklists. Benefits of being a ham or the things you can do with the ham radio. You can talk to other hams literally in any part of the globe. You can use VHF and UHF transceiver to connect with local ham community. You can have networking like IEEE, make friends all over the world. You can transmit at a very low power in high frequency band. You can use even internet to connect with the digital amateur radio communication. You can use amateur TV. You can even send pictures throughout the world using a satellite with a little or a no cost. We use slow scan TV for that. We can contest and win awards. We can make your own transmitter, receiver or antenna and enjoy the hobby of home brewing. for floods, landslides, tsunamis, earthquakes, cyclone and accident. You can be an emergency communication volunteer. You can even find the hidden transmitter as a game. We call that a fox hunt. You can even use your own satellite for worldwide communication using your own walkie-talkie or handheld device. Like IEEE, amateur radio community or ham community follow certain code of ethics while communicating over radio frequency. These are the best ethical practices to be followed for maintaining a healthy conversation.
For a healthy conversation in amateur radio, we need to know few more things. How we are called by others. We are being identified with our call signs. The second thing is about the time zones we are operating. Then the third one is how we are communicating alphabets. We call them as mnemonics. And the final fourth one is we don't talk long conversation, so we have a shorter conversation, so we have cue codes to do that. So let's see one by one. Unlike mobile phones, amateur radio devices have a switch called PTT or push to talk service. So we need to press that button to talk and we should release it for hearing. So it makes it quite difficult to operate it like a mobile phone. So hence we have these 4 techniques to do a healthy conversation. So the first one is to have you identified across the ham community. So my name is Shankar, but I will call my name as a handle. Okay, so I will be known in ham community by my call sign. So my call sign is VU3FIY. So it's quite difficult to pronounce VU3FIY. So instead of the alphabets, what I will do is I will convert those alphabets to different names. So that instead of saying VU3FIY, I will say Victor Uniform number 3 Foxtrot India Yankee. So this is called mnemonics.
Now let us take my call sign VU3FIY. So we can divide these call signs into 3 sections. The first 2 letters can be called or uniquely identified as a country code. The third one, the number, can be used to identify the license type you have. The final 3 letters is a unique code to identify a particular ham operator.
The sound of certain alphabets are quite similar. So in order to have a clarity on that, we use this mnemonics to identify each letter by a word. So you can see this picture to have your own name pronounced with the help of the mnemonics shown here. Unlike mobile phones, it's quite difficult to communicate a long sentence. So we use shorter codes to do that. So since we use ham radio devices, let's say that I am communicating with another person. So if I don't know that particular person's name, I can call, please let me know your handle, or like I said, handle please. Similarly, if you don't know the location of the other person, we can say QTH please, QTH. If I say that, that shows that I need to know the location of the other person. Similarly, if I don't have anything to update to you, I can say QRU. That means that there is nothing for you. Similarly, if I acknowledge what you have said, then what I will return you with a dialogue QSL. For all successful communication in ham radio, we need to record all the details in our logbook. So when you do that, we need to follow a universal time zone concept. We generally follow the Greenwich Meridian time or even Indian Standard Time, but we need to follow UTC time to record all our amateur radio communication. Once we have recorded our communication with the other ham operator, we can request them to send the acknowledgement card, or we call that as a QSL card, from the other person to confirm the communication, as well as we can keep those cards as a collection. Usually the ham contest uses this QSL cards or electronic QSL cards called as EQSL cards to find the winner of the contest. In ham community, people are identified in two types: the ham operators as well as the SWLs, shortwave listeners. So here for ham, we call a male person as old man and a female person as a young lady. In short, OM and YN. So in ham community, always a male person, instead of Mr. we call as OM, Mr. Shankar. When we start as shortwave listeners or SWLs, it's always to seek out your ham colleague to procure or purchase a small handy like this to start listening of an actual ham communication. That will help you to build up a firm foundation on how to have a healthy conversation in the ham community. So let's start with this. This is actually a small handheld equipment which can be obtained at 5,000 rupees, starting from 2,500 up to a high-end model. This is a Biofang model which has a transmission capability of 8 watts. Okay, so this is a PTT button I was talking about. So you need to press this button to communicate. Like handsets, you can purchase base sets models like this to transmit at a higher power. The other equipments you need to start your ham journey or amateur radio communication journey is that you need to have antennas, cables of either a good quality ones called RG213 or a lower ones of RG58. If you would like to start exploring ham world without procuring any instruments, I would suggest you can use few ham apps to explore the area. You can find out who is, if you know the call sign, by using QR as an assistant. You can find the repeater frequency by using repeater book app. You can find the details of the satellites roaring around the sky using Heavens Above. If you need few calculation regarding antenna and any amateur radio calculation, you can use amateur radio toolkit. To learn Morse code, you can use Morse code translator or Morse mentor. You can even decode and encode picture messages using slow scan TV encoder and decoder. So you can use SSTV encoder as well as Robot 3.6. To know more about ham radio or amateur radio, feel free to contact me, and we will see you in our next video.